పైన ఫ్లోర్ చేయడం పడుతుంది, ఇక్కడేమో అనేబుల్ లోపల.
Hello and a warm welcome to everyone to the Oral Diagnosis and Radiology Weekend Webinar Series. We have successfully reached the final session of the 5-week series, and thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Dr. Neerja and I'm working at Faculty of Dentistry, AIIMS University. I'll be the moderator for today's webinar session. Before we start, I would like to request you all to bear with us at times, as the speakers are logging in from different time zones and we might expect some technical hitches which may happen. I also take this opportunity to thank the management of AIIMS University, Malaysia, and also happy to partner with Amropin India for giving us invaluable support and guidance to conduct this webinar series. Now coming to today's topic, which is on the role of physiotherapy and TMD and cervicogenic headache. It is by Dr. Sheela Ramachandran from India. Dr. Sheela, she is the founder and director of Sheela Physiocare, KIP Kamnath Institute of Education and Research, Chennai. She graduated in 2004 and completed her master's in physiotherapy in 2014. She has pursued Doctor of Philosophy in Urogynecological Physiotherapy from the prestigious Government Stanley Medical College, India. Her area of practice for the last 15 years lies in the field of musculoskeletal, sports and urogynecological physiotherapy, on-field assessment and treatment, postural awareness, menstrual health and hygiene for adolescent girls and women, pelvic floor conditions and its treatment. Her expertise in ergonomics, injury prevention, sports recovery and musculoskeletal problems, and in prevention and treatment has resulted in her being attached to Sports Development Authority of Tamil Nadu, consultant sports physiotherapist in Champions Development Scheme, Royal Athletic Club and Precision Academy. She has authored various national and international papers on the importance of the same and has professional affiliations in the same field. It's a pleasure having you here with us, Dr. Sheela. Welcome to today's webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them in the Facebook comment box so that we can bring it up after Dr. Sheela's presentation. So now, without any further ado, we would like to turn the time to today's presenter, Dr. Sheela, to share her knowledge and expertise on the subject matter. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Sheela.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all through this webinar series. Ma'am gave the introduction about me. Hope we can directly go to the presentation. Can I share my screen?
Yes, Dr. Sheela, you can start sharing your screen now.
Yeah. Today I'm going to present the topic, role of physiotherapy in temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache.
The objectives of today's presentations are the prevalence of temporomandibular joint dysfunction with cervicogenic headache, the barriers in effective care, role of physiotherapy and its prognosis in temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache, why the interdisciplinary approach is important for sustained and complete recovery. According to a recent report, temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache are the second most common musculoskeletal disorder experienced by adults. However, these conditions are mostly misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. The prevalence of temporomandibular joint dysfunction in different types of headache. It is reported that 63% of patients with migraine with aura, 55% of patients without aura, 49% of tension type headache, and 44% of cervicogenic headache had temporomandibular joint dysfunction as a coexisting condition. Hence, it is important to evaluate temporomandibular joint in any types of headache in order to get good prognosis. However, recent reports have suggested that the diagnosis and treatment prevalence for temporomandibular joint dysfunction to as low as 10%. Such limitations can be overcome by focused multidisciplinary approach. The low treatment percentage prevalence are due to following barriers. The primary clinical barrier is lack of awareness and knowledge among healthcare providers. A study conducted among Filipino dentists and physical therapists regarding the education, awareness, and knowledge about temporomandibular joint dysfunction and related headache was published in June 2020. And this study showed high awareness but low education and knowledge about these conditions amongst dentists and physical therapists. Similarly, another study reported that 50% of dentists were not aware of the fact that physical therapy can treat temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache patients. However, oral surgeons and orthodontists were more aware about physical therapy compared to other specialists in dentistry. Hence, both these studies emphasize on the importance of interdisciplinary awareness and knowledge to treat these conditions. The second barrier is lack of awareness about these conditions in general public. The headache and temporomandibular joint disorders are not perceived by the public as a serious issue, since they are mostly episodic, not contagious, and do not cause death. Many affected people are unaware that an effective treatment exists. Most of the people with temporomandibular joint dysfunction and headache disorder are estimated to be self-treating or neglecting the condition. So it is important to overcome these barriers for effective care. There are more than 100 types of headaches classified under International Classification of Diagnostic Criteria of Headache. Among those, there are three main types associated with temporomandibular joint dysfunction. They are tension type headache, migraine, and cervicogenic headache. In these, migraine and cervicogenic headache are usually misdiagnosed due to overlapping of symptoms. Differentiating the symptoms between migraine and cervicogenic headache seems to be beneficial in addressing the root cause and preventing misdiagnosis. The migraine is typically characterized by episodic, pulsating pain in one half of the face, which is usually unilateral and lasts for 4 to 72 hours with or without neurological symptoms. Herein, the common overlapping symptoms between migraine and cervicogenic headache are nausea, vomiting, vision changes, and giddiness. Further, differential diagnosis of cervicogenic headache from migraine is done with characteristic symptoms such as pain at top and back of the head. Usually, nagging pain starts at occipital area and spreads upward till the frontal area. Another classical symptom is aggravation of pain by neck movements, and it can be unilateral or bilateral. Physical therapy plays a major role in the management of temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache. The major advantages of the physiotherapy management are: it is a non-invasive method yielding long-lasting result and fast recovery. Initially, we need to do complete assessment for proper diagnosis and to evaluate the stage and type of the condition. For that, in physiotherapy, the following complete assessment are performed. In neck assessment, along with range of motion, assessment of joint plane movement, End range of motion, stability, mobility, etc. are done. In postural assessment, assess static and dynamic posture, ergonomic posture, and lying posture, etc. In temporomandibular joint assessment, assessment are done for joint range of motion, mobility, stability, type of jaw, facial proportion, etc. In headache assessment, we need to assess type of pain, duration, associated symptoms, intensity and area of pain, etc. In tongue assessment, the movement of tongue, sensation, taste, and position of tongue are assessed. Myofascial assessment. In this, we use to assess the muscle imbalance, level of tightness and weakness of the muscles, and facial pattern. Core muscle assessment. In this, we will assess the core muscles like transverse abdominis, obliques, and gluteal activity. In female, need to assess the pelvic floor muscle activity. Sleep and breathing pattern assessment. In sleep, assess sleep duration, type of pillow used, early morning symptoms, jaw position during sleep, and clenching the teeth during sleep, etc. In breathing, need to assess the type of breathing, activity of diaphragm, involvement of axillary muscles, any other respiratory conditions like wheezing, etc. Ergonomical assessment. In this, we need to assess working posture, working area, duration, mode of transport of the patient. Behavioral assessment. In this, need to assess bruxing of teeth, nail biting, biting other objects, and chewing habits. Neurological assessment. Routine neurological assessment need to be done if neurological symptoms are coexisting. Temporomandibular dysfunction and cervicogenic headache is a multifactorial disorder. Hence, such detailed assessment are required to be mandatorily done to understand the underlying cause triggering the condition. Education plays a major role in good prognosis. Need to educate the patient about the condition, treatment, and relevant prognosis. Awareness need to be created about the importance of good posture and behavioral modification. It is very important to educate the patient how to choose the pillow or mattresses. We need to use a firm pillow in order to maintain head and neck in line with trunk. If we use high pillow, it will stretch the joints and surrounding structures. If we use low, soft, or foam pillow, will compress the joint and surrounding tissues. In both cases, it will lead to neck issues. Among all other available physiotherapy treatment methods, manual therapy is considered as most effective method, which gives fast and sustained recovery. In manual therapy, we follow the following techniques. Joint mobilization or joint manipulation. The graded techniques are performed over the compressed joints in order to improve mobility. In temporomandibular joint, the manipulation is the first line treatment which helps to improve the mouth opening and to replace the disc in its original position. Thus, it reduces the compression and strain over the joint. If we did not perform the mobilization technique, then it will be difficult to restore the functional activity of the joint. The next most concentrated joint in this condition is cervical spine. Usually, the first, second, third cervical spinal levels are affected more. The different glides and movement with mobilization techniques are used to relieve facet compression at this level in order to relieve compression over the nerve and strain of the neck muscles. Further, shoulder complex will be subjected to joint mobilization. In this, we need to treat all three joints like sternoclavicular joint, acromioclavicular joint, and glenohumeral joints of shoulder complex in order to improve the function of temporomandibular joint and cervical spine. Since the shoulder complex forms the base for the activities of temporomandibular joint and cervical spine. In shoulder complex, we need to concentrate on scapular mobility too for better result. Apart from these joints, we need to mobilize and manipulate the thoracic spine because usually these patients will exhibit more stiffness over T3 to T6 thoracic spine. Along with all these joints, we need to work on sacroiliac joint and lumbar spine for optimal function of temporomandibular joint and cervical spine because anatomically they are interrelated. If we don't work on these joints, then we cannot achieve optimal result. The recent report published in 2014 suggests the same. The next manual technique we use are soft tissue mobilization. In temporomandibular region, the stiffness over the masseter muscle will be more due to its anti-gravity activity. So this muscle has to be mobilized to relieve stiffness, which will relieve pain in temple area, also improves temporomandibular joint range of motion, as well as prevent disc displacement. The next most commonly affected muscles will be scalenus and sternocleidomastoid muscle due to adapted forward head posture of an individual and due to overactivity of these muscles during breathing and to compensate weak diaphragm. These muscles should be released to correct forward head posture. Along with above muscles, trapezius has to be released. In trapezius, the upper and middle fibers will be affected more. We need to concentrate on this muscle in cervicogenic headache patients to relieve pain and heaviness. In addition, pectoral muscles and biceps has to be released to correct posture. The optimal length of gluteus muscle and piriformis is much more important for effective work of diaphragm. The recent study published in 2013 also support this. Fascia release. Since fascia is a connective structure which connects all part of the body that enable us to work in synchronized manner. In these conditions, there will be tension in facial structure over scalp, neck and thoracic area, which is mainly responsible for upper and lower cross syndrome. Further, it is also responsible for cervicogenic headache because the trapezius ends in the base of the skull and continues above as scalp fascia, which is responsible for typical radiation of pain from base of skull to frontal area in cervicogenic headache patients. The research published in 2010 explains and supports this connectivity. Stretching. The stretching can be done actively or passively. These stretching helpful to maintain optimal length of muscles after soft tissue mobilization treatment. This is used as home program. We need to teach stretching for trapezius, scalenus, sternocleidomastoid, biceps, pectoralis, gluteus, piriformis muscle. These stretching exercises are helpful to maintain the optimal length by breaking actin-myosin bond. The study reported in 2018 supports the importance of stretching. Craniosacral therapy. This technique is helpful to restore rhythm of cranial bone, which occurs along with cerebrospinal fluid. This technique will be more effective in cervicogenic headache patients in order to relieve facial strain over scalp area and improves mobility of cranial bones. Among these, they will be concentrating more on occipital, temporal and frontal area. The study published in 2016 supports the importance and effects of craniosacral therapy in cervicogenic headache patients. The importance and effects of manual therapy treatment is emphasized in the study published in 2016. Exercise. Strengthening exercises We need to concentrate strengthening of deep cervical flexors, rhomboids, and triceps, which will be helpful to maintain good posture and to correct muscle imbalance in order to prevent strain and compression of the joints. The study published in 2018 emphasized the importance of strengthening in temporomandibular joint and cervicogenic headache patients. Joint stabilization exercises. These exercises are more important to restore stability in order to improve the mobility of the joints. Thus prevents the overactivity of certain group of muscles. Core stabilization exercises. In this, the strengthening of transverse abdominis, obliques, rectus abdominis, and pelvic floor muscles are concentrated, which in turns responsible for maintaining pelvis in neutral position. Thus helps in good posture maintenance and for optimal activity of diaphragm. Proprioceptive re-education. The re-education of proprioceptive mechanism, which is a joint position sense, is responsible for synchronized activity of joint and muscle component in order to maintain good posture. Relaxation techniques. These techniques are helpful to reduce strain over muscles and impact on joints. They taught as a home program. Behavioral modification. The behavioral modification is the important component in the management of temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache patients in order to prevent recurrence and for long-term relief. If an individual is not modifying the behaviors like bruxing of teeth, nail biting, or biting other objects and using chewing gum, then the prognosis won't be good and won't get complete recovery. The study published in 2019 emphasized the importance of posture correction, proprioceptive re-education, and behavioral modification for long-term effect on temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache cases. Among all modalities, thermotherapy, cryotherapy, and ultrasound gives very good result in temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache cases. IFT is used in cervical conditions. The TENS is safe and effective for pain in temporomandibular joint dysfunction.
Ma'am? Ma'am?
Hello, Dr. Sheila. We can't hear you, Doctor. Sorry to interrupt you, but we can't hear you.
Laser gives good result in this degenerative condition, but the research background which supports laser usage in temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache is very less. Next, the customized home program is much more important to maintain the gained result by manual techniques in order to give fast and sustained recovery. These home programs has to be revised and upgraded according to the improvement in periodic manner. To summarize, interdisciplinary knowledge is important to treat these conditions. Temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache has bidirectional relationship, so it has to be addressed and treated simultaneously. Differential diagnosis between migraine and cervicogenic headache is essential for better outcome. Among physiotherapy treatment, manual techniques are most effective method along with customized home program. To conclude, it is very important that dental practitioners and physical therapists work together to overcome the limitation in the management of temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache. These are the recent reports I have cited in this presentation. I welcome questions and suggestions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila, for your wonderful presentation. You can kindly turn off your, stop sharing the PowerPoint, and you can turn on your video for the discussion.
Actually, the host has stopped, so I'm not able to turn on.
Okay. Ms. Vilasni, kindly turn on Ms. Sheila's video.
Yes, Doctor. Dr. Sheila, you may you may turn on your video now.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. It was a very informative talk as such, where we don't have much, we treat patients, but not in as how you have explained us. So there are some questions for this. Are you ready for the panel discussion? We can do a discussion now? Yes.
Yeah.
Your first question is,
One thing I want to inform you that if I'm able to, if all these questions within my ken, I will answer immediately. If it is beyond my ken, give me 2 days of time. Within that period, I will post the answer for this in the same FB page. Okay. Is it okay?
okay.
Does that
Yeah,
work?
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What are the recent physiotherapy treatments for TMJ pain? Because we normally send the patient for ultrasound. Is there any other recent physiotherapy treatments?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned in the presentation itself, manual therapy is an advance and it gives sustained and fast relief when compared to that of modality treatment like ultrasound or any other thing. So in the manual therapy, I have mentioned a lot of techniques are there, soft tissue mobilization and joint manipulation. So all those things. So manual techniques are the advanced and recent one, which gives really a wonderful result.
What is your stand on acupuncture? Whether acupuncture on
Not sure about
this?
that. Actually speaking,
Okay.
I don't have any idea about that.
Okay.
But
Why
but another side, but acupuncture can be used to release the muscles. Of course, it can be done.
Okay, so you mean to say it should be a
But it's a
multidisciplinary
because
approach?
it's a multifactorial. Again, if you are treating the muscle alone and just to release that spasm alone won't work. We need to strengthen contract muscles also. Then only it leads to the complete solution. So through acupuncture, to my knowledge, I may be wrong, you can treat only the muscle spasm. You can't strengthen or you
Mm.
can't treat the joints. So only treating one factor won't be more effective.
Okay. And there is something called as IFT, which you have mentioned in your PowerPoint. Can we know more about IFT? What is IFT?
EFT means it's an interferential therapy. Through pain gate mechanism, it works. Actually, it is a pain relieving modality. I mean, usually IFT we used to give for muscular pain. Of course, even for joint pain, of course. But it based on the pain gate mechanism, it works. So in the temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache cases, usually in cervicogenic headache cases, there will be symptoms with cervical symptoms will be there. So in that case, we use the IFT to treat the cervical component, not for TMJ, not directly over the TMJ.
Okay. So that IFT is something like a manual therapy, or it
It's a
is?
modality. It's a modality.
It's a modality.
Interferential therapy. It's a
Okay.
modality.
What is the principle? Because I'm interested to ask you like this, like what is
Yeah,
the principle behind, like it works on, yeah.
Pain gate. It works on pain gate mechanism.
Okay.
See, this IFT is works on pain gate mechanism. See, in our body we have a large muscle fibers and small muscle fibers. Normally, no, whenever the pain transmitted through the small muscle fibers, when the IFT, when we are stimulating, it stimulates the large muscle fibers. Sorry, large neurons, large diameter neurons. So it will block the small diameter neurons. So this will prevent the pain stimulus reaching the brain.
Okay. So it is something like TENS, or no, I wanted to ask you, like, is it something like infrared or ultrasound? I'm asking that type of modality.
Yeah, ultrasound, actually ultrasound is for inflammatory conditions you can use. In temporomandibular joint dysfunction, when in that inflammatory stage, ultrasound works really good. But infrared radiation, it produces only superficial heat where you can use it for muscle spasm, but it gives a superficial heat. To my practical clinical practice, I won't use the infrared IRR. The reason is it is a superficial effect it's giving, but ultrasound, it really makes wonder in the inflammatory stage of temporomandibular joint dysfunction. And in the cervicogenic headache, there will be stiffness in the base of the skull. So when we are releasing that, after that, if we are keeping the ultrasound, then the effect is really good.
Okay. There's another question. What is the principle behind TENS for using myofascial pain?
Same.
What is the principle behind TENS?
TENS
Yeah.
also works in the same way of how the IFT works, but this is transcutaneous. The stimulation will be superficial when compared to that of IFT. But this also works in the principle of pain gate theory.
All right.
But this TENS, you can use it for TMJ cases, because since it is superficial and the intensity of the stimulus will be less when compared to that of IFT. So the individual feel more comfort with TENS, so you can use it in the TMJ conditions.
Okay. The next question, how will you do a physiotherapy in the cases where the patient has bruxism and TMJ pain?
Yeah.
What is your role?
Actually, in the bruxism, there will be the compression of the temporomandibular joint. There will be, so it's first, our goal is we need to relieve the joint compression. So we used to do the distraction glide and lateral glide. It's a joint manipulation. So we have to go from grade 1 and to grade 2, depends on the individual's tolerating level and depends on the individual's pain intensity. So the glides which you use, it's a distraction glide and lateral glide. So that will reduces the compression of the temporomandibular joint and reduces that compression.
So along with your treatment, along with the therapy, what you do, will you suggest the bruxism patient to go for splints or something?
Yes, yes, because I used to refer to consult the dentist because splint, along with splint, because splint is mandatory for bruxism cases, because when you are distracting, to maintain that distraction, they need the splint. And if we are rehabilitating along with splint in the bruxism cases, the recovery is faster. Without splint, it's getting delayed because again they can't maintain the distracted joint position. So
Okay,
splints
this is for
really
the,
makes,
yeah, correct. So this is for the people with teeth, right? As what you say. And for example, if the TMJ pain is there in a completely edentulous patient, that is the patient without any teeth. The patient is
okay,
having TMJ pain,
okay,
but the patient is not having any teeth. Okay,
okay,
so how will you treat this case? Why? Because bruxism, yes, they have teeth and there is a compression.
okay.
And in the patients with no teeth, how to handle this case?
See, in patients without teeth, then we have to assess is there any other contributing factors, because when the teeth is not there, naturally, see, that is not the contributing factor. So TMJ is a multifactorial. So we need to assess, as I explained in the slide, we need to do the complete assessment in order to find the cause. So according to the cause, we can progress. But most probably, when the patient is not having teeth, it could be because of bad posture. It could be because that, so in that case we need to treat the cervical region and posture, that component, so that relieves the their pain. Of course, even this patient requires the joint distraction because of the bad posture, the alignment will change, the masseter muscle will go for tightness, so that leads to compression of the joint. So we need to concentrate more on the masseter muscle release. So that's in that way we can relieve the pain.
Okay, thank you, Roma. Next question. Which TENS machine is ideal for facial and neck muscles? There are range of machines available ranging from 1,000 to 4 to 5 lakhs. Can you suggest a good machine?
Actually, I don't know about that, but if you're using even pocket tens, that really works in temporomandibular joint dysfunction. So it doesn't mean the according to the rate of the mission, the effect it won't get varied. So of course there will be bit variation in the intensity of the stimulus, but even a normal pocket tens which charges nearly 2,000, that really makes a good result, because we don't need a high intensity of the stimulus, because it will create discomfort to the individual, because we are going to use near the ears and neck, so no need the higher intensity.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, which has been asked by a participant is, does mobilization helps in patient with cervicogenic headache causing due to TMJ?
Yeah, because see, the thing is, in cervicogenic headache, there will be severe tightness in the trapezius muscle. In the trapezius muscle, it gets attached at the base of the skull, and then it continues as a fascia. So when the trapezius muscles gets tightened, automatically the individual's posture will alter. So they'll be in the forward neck posture, and there'll be stiffness in the scalene and sternocleidomastoid too. So we have to release the trapezius muscles, where soft tissue mobilization really makes wonder, and we have to use other glides like transverse friction glide, other techniques at the base of the skull to release the stiffness, and then we have to work with the TMJ also to give the complete solution.
Okay, so for example, like how many sittings a patient may require?
See, it totally depends on the individual uh, pain tolerance, and the as we explained earlier, it is a multifactorial. So we need to check how many factors are involved in this condition. So it depends on that, we can find out how many days it required. But on an average, it may ranges between 5 to 10 sittings.
Okay. And this is my personal question. If suppose we dentists want to send the patient for manipulation, whatever treatment you say, like which type of specialty should we prefer in physiotherapist? I know like there are many specialty in physiotherapy.
Yeah.
So
See,
to
actually,
be specific.
yeah, musculoskeletal physiotherapist, they will be knowing about temporomandibular joint dysfunction comparatively other specialty people. So musculoskeletal or ortho specialty.
Okay. Musculoskeletal or ortho
Musculoskeletal
specialty?
or ortho specialty.
Ortho. Okay. There's another question. What is your opinion on the role of occlusion under mandibular position on cervicogenic pain? How do you rectify those issues with your patient?
See, occlusion, to my knowledge, I'm asking you, occlusion is related to the, I
Teeth.
mean, dental, yeah, teeth.
Yeah,
So
teeth and the
first
joint.
line
Yeah.
treatment is dentistry. They need to correct that occlusion part. And in that case, we will be like a secondary or like associative. So once they are clearing that occlusion, then only we can, I mean, because of the occlusion, of course, there will be muscle imbalance will be there. So we need to correct those muscle imbalance. But until unless if the occlusion is not treated properly, then there won't be proper result.
So you
naturally,
mean to say it is actually dentist and the physiotherapist have to work hand in hand for these cases?
actually in TMJ condition, they have to work hand in hand. Interdisciplinary approach only will work in temporomandibular joint dysfunction. So that's it's very important. You can't we can't say that only physiotherapists can treat this, only dentists can treat this. It never happens because it's a multifactorial and they are interrelated. So interdisciplinary work really makes a good result.
Thank you. There's another question popped up. Yeah. Can passive stretching used in extremity physiotherapy can be used for masticatory muscles?
No, actually in masticatory muscles, we can't passively stretch the muscles. It's impossible. So actively, I mean, sorry. Passively you can stretch the muscle. Actively you can't. So passively the physiotherapist can release, and in that way they can stretch the muscle. But actively they can't stretch. Of course, passively they can do.
Okay. There's another question popping out. In patients with a history of joint dislocation,
Okay.
TMJ joint dislocation,
Okay.
what is the role of physiotherapy in joint strengthening?
See, that's in this case, first we have to see the range of whether it's a subluxation or dislocation. If it is dislocation, of course, dentist plays the major role, because if it is subluxation, that is fine. But in the total dislocation, then the dentist they are playing the major role. Then after that, we need to go for joint stabilization exercises, so that gives the complete solution. If it is subluxation, then with manipulation, you can reposition the disc. But in the dislocation, it's quite difficult.
Yes, after we reposition the mandible, what are the other exercises or joint strengthening which you can?
First, initially, they have to concentrate more on joint stabilization exercises. Then they have to, because joint stabilization exercises is very important. It's like foundation of building. So based on that stabilization, the muscle and joints going to do the mobility activity. So once with manipulation, if you are repositioning the disc and joint, then you have to do the joint stabilization exercises. After that, we need to concentrate on the strengthening of the surrounding structures. And of course, proprioceptive mechanism re-education is much more important, because in these conditions, there won't be synchronized activity of the head and neck component. So we need to concentrate on proprioceptive re-education also.
Thank you. This is one. Can dentists take a short course in physiotherapy for treating TMJ disorders.
I'm
I
sorry,
think,
ma'am,
well,
really, because in the assessment itself, I have just mentioned the names, but each and every technique you need to learn. That's why I'm saying even physiotherapy, musculoskeletal people are one. I'm not saying only, they are specialized in that. So I don't think so. Because there is
okay.
no any diploma like that sort of thing, but you can you can get, you can get an awareness and knowledge about the treatment procedure, but to do that procedure you need to know a lot of things, to learn a lot of things. I don't think so.
So it doesn't come into a diploma course, or you cannot take a course. Dentists, please don't take any course in the physiotherapy for treating TMJ. And there's another question. Many studies have suggested that the use of biomodulation uh, by laser. What is your experience with lasers?
Actually speaking, I didn't try laser for temporomandibular joint dysfunction. I didn't try that, but when I'm coming across, when I'm searching for the research articles, there is lack in research article regarding the laser usage in temporomandibular joint dysfunction. So I never tried that. Even I didn't came across that. I didn't try.
Okay. Any role of robotic treatment in any
Actually,
neuro?
robotic treatments, actually speaking, robotic physiotherapy is there, but it's used mainly for neurological conditions, not for musculoskeletal thing. Because that's the thing. They use more for neurological conditions, um, like hemiparesis, paraplegia, hemiplegia. In that cases, they are using the robotic physiotherapy. To my knowledge, not in musculoskeletal conditions, because I have friends in Japan. In robotics they are leading, and have a friend, he's working in robotic physiotherapy department for past 3 years. So when I discussed with him regarding the same thing, so he was telling that robotics at present, we are using only for neurological conditions, not for musculoskeletal issues.
Maybe we can expect in future.
Maybe.
All right. The last question from the participant is, how can TENS help in the patient treated with radiotherapy?
No. Question is, how is tenses?
TENS
Okay.
helpful in patient treated with radiotherapy. Patient is being treated with radiotherapy for cancer or something.
Okay, fine. Yeah, in radio, actually speaking, tenses, to my knowledge, tense is a safer modality. You can use it for radiotherapy patient. That's not the issue at all, because it's a safer thing. Comparatively, IFT, tense, they won't feel that much discomfort.
This, I'm seriously interested with this IFT. Is it, what is the cost of that machine, or can we?
To my knowledge, at present, it is something around 25,000.
Okay. Based on what mechanism it works?
I told you,
like it's infrared, or it is just a vibration, or
it works with it works with the principle of pain gate mechanism.
Okay. Pain gate mechanism. Sorry, you have already told us.
Yeah.
So what is the best treatment for subluxation?
That's why I explained. With subluxation, first with manipulation, you have to reposition the disc. It's actually first you have to reposition the disc. That is the first line treatment. You have to do the joint manipulation. Then you have to do the joint stabilization. Then strengthening program. Then proprioceptive re-education, because TMJ is working with cervical and shoulder complex. So we need to create that synchronized activity. So this is the protocol. First, you have to work with joint manipulation in order to reposition the disc.
Okay. It is really nice talking with you as how the dentistry and physiotherapy have to work hand in hand. It is not like always a treatment includes a multidisciplinary approach. That is the reason we brought this topic into this webinar series. And can you give us your clinical experiences, any case you have treated for TMJ, which is different,
Yeah.
anything
Actually,
pertaining to dentistry?
Yeah, actually, one case nearly 9 years back. Okay, it's a very rare case. I've seen the patient with cervicogenic headache, temporomandibular joint dysfunction, along with hypoglossal neuropraxic type of symptoms. I mean, the tongue is moving ipsilateral side, the deviation of tongue. So initially, I was not knowing what is the reason, but I was noting. I mean, I know that it's a hypoglossal nerve injury. It's a neuropraxic, but how it is related to the cervical region, I was not having any idea. Then simply, I just started to read about the hypoglossal nerve anatomy. So in that, actually, even though the hypoglossal nerve is a deep nerve, one of the rudimentary is coming out through base of skull and first cervical vertebrae. So that rudimentary compression leads to the uh, tongue symptoms. So what happened? What I done? I released that base of the skull, and then I manipulated. I used the transverse friction glide, everything. Within 2 days, the tongue symptoms came down, and the deviation it's totally vanished. So my opinion is, whenever we are treating whenever we are treating the TMJ and cervicogenic headache, we need to consider about the trigeminal nerve and hypoglossal nerve too, because hypoglossal nerve, we won't think about that because we think that it is a deep nerve. Of course, it's a deep nerve, but that rudimentary is coming out between base of skull and first cervical vertebrae. So we need to think about that also. So that's the reason I mentioned in the assessment part, we need to assess the tongue movements and sensation and taste. So because I should say that I'm really, because it's a very rare case. Hypoglossal nerve injury, that is the neuropraxic type, is a very rare case, but I got the opportunity to treat that case.
Thank you so much. And there is one last question from the participant. They are really worried about TENS. So can you give us details about TENS mission in head and neck area?
TENS mission in head and neck area. I mean, I don't
Um,
understand. When they are asking about
in a sense, like how to place it and
speaking placement of the leads. There is a 2-lead method and 4-lead. So both whatever you want you can use. But in 2-lead, normally in temporomandibular joints, 2-lead itself, I mean, it's enough. 4 leads will be using to cover the cervical area. So mostly the 2 leads will be presented. I mean, we used to place it over the nape of the neck, and then another 2 leads over the trapezius area. So that will cover most of the trapezius part, because in the cervicogenic headache and temporomandibular joint dysfunction, the upper and middle fibers of the trapezius gets more affected when compared to that of the lower fibers. So if we are covering this area, hope that is enough.
sure. So, and I would like to ask you, what is the prevalence of cervicogenic pain and TMJ pain in your practice?
In
Like
my
you,
actually speaking, in Chennai, and I have published one paper also. In that also, see, more than 40% of the patient with cervicogenic headache having the TMD issues. So it's very important whenever the patient is coming for cervicogenic headache, it's very important to assess the temporomandibular joint functions, and we need to treat that component too in order to give the permanent solution. So more than 40% of the people with cervicogenic headache are affected by temporomandibular joint dysfunction.
what is the physiology behind this? What is the etiology?
The etiology, okay, see, it's totally related to the posture. Is the posture. So whenever individual with the forward head posture, the trapezius muscle will go for tightness, especially the upper and middle fibers of the trapezius. That comes in attached over the base of the skull, and then it is continuous as a fascia where it comes in ends over the near the eyebrows. So whenever the muscle is tight, it will pulls the fascia. So that's the reason the individual is getting the cervicogenic headache because of the neck issues. And the typical pattern of cervicogenic headache pain is it starts from the base of the skull. Usually the people will say that they have a pain in the occiput region, and then it spreads from back to front. So this is the pattern. Usually it is unilateral, and most of the time, actually in my practical experience, I've seen a lot of bilateral cases also. So it's in the cervicogenic headache, as I told you, when the forwarded posture, automatically the neck will be in forwarded position. So the masseter muscle has to work more in order to maintain the mandible in its elevated position. So that overstrain of that masseter muscles will leads to the pain over this part, and this masseter muscle has the connectivity with temporalis, and which connects the jaw part with the head. So that is also another factor which contributes the pain. So in the temporomandibular joint pain, it starts from here and then it spreads like this. But in cervicogenic headache, it starts from the base of the skull and it spreads anteriorly. And another reason for cervicogenic headache, why the neck component leads to the headache. Actually, the afferent fibers from C1, C2, C3, it ends into the trigeminal cerviconucleus in the brain. So whatever changes happening in the cervical region, that afferent nerves will send the impulses to that nucleus, and because of that response, there is a relay of pain stimulus from the neck to the brain. So that is the reason they are getting the pain over this area. So this is the reason the posture plays the major role, which has the correlation between the temporomandibular joint and cervicogenic. So if the people is coming with temporomandibular joint, we need to check whether they have a cervicogenic headache. Usually this is get misdiagnosed with migraine because of overlapping of symptoms. Because in the migraine, the individual will be having the pain half of the face. But in the in cervicogenic headache, they'll be having a pain over this part and top of the head. In temporomandibular joint pain, the characteristics of pain will be like throbbing type of pain. But in the migraine, they'll be having a pulsating type of pain, and they will be having a neurological symptoms like they'll be having black dots and something like zigzag thing, and they'll be having some confusion, memory confusion. So all those things they'll be having a neurological, migraine type of headache. But in the cervicogenic headache, they'll be having occasionally, they may have a numbness over this part. And because of the cervical component, they can have a symptoms in either side of the hand. So differentiation of the migraine and cervicogenic headache is very important, because in migraine you have another type is called as migraine without aura. Aura means it's a neurological symptoms. So if the individual with migraine without aura, that type usually get confused with cervicogenic headache. So easily we can diagnose with the location of the pain. So in cervicogenic headache, they'll be having a pain over the occiput region and the top of the pain, and the pain radiates from back to front. So that is the differential diagnosis is much more important.
Sorry, we are still pulling with few questions.
Yeah, please.
What is your opinion on diagnosis of fibromyalgia of the neck?
See, fibromyalgia, again, it's the muscle spasm. Fibrous structure, it's a muscle spasm. So in this case, you need to do more of soft tissue techniques in order to relieve those muscles. And of course, the work on the joints will be there, but comparatively, we need to concentrate more on the soft tissue structures. And then we have to concentrate more on strengthening part too.
Okay. Is the main etiology is the posture, or the posture is the manifestation of a problem?
See, actually, practically, Actually, it's a vice versa, but most of the conditions nowadays, because of the lifestyle modification and because of that table type of uh, professions. So because of that, that is desk job professions. So because of that, posture plays the major role in temporomandibular joint dysfunction and cervicogenic headache because of desk job. So
Okay.
most of the cases nowadays, because of posture, we are getting. I mean, what I'm seeing in clinically, the posture, improper posture plays the major role.
The last question: does EMG aid in the diagnosis and treatment of myofascial pain?
Of course, EMG you can use for strengthening as well as for diagnosis which muscles. Actually, it gives the accurate result. Which part of the fibers gets affected, which is having the weakness. So you can target that fibers in order to strengthen. So it is for localized strengthening of the muscle. EMG is it will be used.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Sheila, Dr. Sheila. Like, it has been like a wonderful talking with you and a good discussion. And still we are pulling with the questions, but we are stopping it right now. Thank you
Okay.
so much for sparing your time in your busy schedule. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for EMST University, Malaysia, and Amropin, India. Thanks to invite me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have come to the, dear audience, we have come to the conclusion of our webinar series of week 5. It has been 5 weeks with 10 different speakers and 10 different topics, exciting topics, shooting you every weekend. And this is the time we would like to thank our organizers, the AIIMS University Malaysia and Amropin India, for a continuous support and for everything they have done for us. And I would like Dr. Ruchika to give a vote of thanks on behalf of Amropin. Dr. Ruchika, please.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, the audience. First of all, I'd like to start with thanking the audience. We've had like immense response. The feedback forms and the certificates say it all. My first vote of thanks goes to Dr. Priya and of course AIIMS University. But without Dr. Priya and having, discussions that we've been having, I don't think this would have been possible. So Dr. Priya, Dr. Neeraja, Dr. Ravi, Dr. Ramesh, who has not been seen, and definitely Ms. Vilasini from AIIMS University. We definitely want to thank on behalf of Amropin. And I'd like to thank my Amropin members, Dr. Siva Balakrishnan, because of whom Amropin has come about, Dr. Vaseem, Dr. Mogit, Dr. Nishit, Dr. Shikha, Dr. Ambika, and Dr. Prasanna. I want to thank each one of you all the senior faculty members from the fraternity who have been here with us all through the series, who've been sending us messages. Again, I think the messages are mostly for the fantastic collection of topics, and Dr. Pradarshini is responsible for that. That is totally her share. So Dr. Pradarshini, thank you for fantastic selection of topics. And I'd like to take this opportunity to again tell everybody that Amropin is coming with the second series, lecture series, which will be on in mid-August. So we'll see you guys again then. Please keep the support and keep watching us, and hopefully we'll be able to meet the expectations. So thank you, AIIMS University, and thank you to Amropin and all the team members back there. Miss Vilasini, 3 cheers for you. Had you not been there, this smooth transmission every time wouldn't have been possible. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruchika. Thank you very much. And actually, you guys did a wonderful job. And on behalf of AIIMS University, I'm thanking all the great efforts that you and also Dr. Priya, Dr. Neeraja, and Dr. Ramesh have brought in. Thank you very much. Please come back with more webinars, and we will be very happy to host it again. Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
And this is the time we have to really acknowledge the organizing committee, which has been a back support, a backbone. Why? Because some people, we are working from India and some people are working from Malaysia. We are making things together, working, trying to make the
right.
points
And
together. I would like to invite Dr. Neeraja and Dr. Ravi,
Yes.
who is a part of the organizing committee. They are not even a part; they are a backbone of our webinar talks.
Thank you so much. Thank
Few
you so much,
words,
Dr.
few
Priya,
words
Dr.
from.
Ruchika.
Thank you.
We thank
We need Dr. Ravi also.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, I'm moving a little bit slowly. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We had a wonderful time of 5 weeks of learning, and we've learned so much. And it was nice being associated with Amropin. And we also thank AIMS University, Ms. Vilasini, for supporting us throughout the 5 weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you all the speakers and the panelists who've been with us for all these 5 weeks. And especially the audience, the participants who've been giving us all positive feedbacks through all these 5 weeks. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
She said
And
all
last
the
but
things that I was supposed to say, so I don't have any much to say, but the only thing I would like to thank is Dr. Priya, Amropin, and
Yeah, Dr. Ramesh.
the unsung hero, Dr. Ramesh, who's always been adjacent to Dr. Priya, and he's been
no, he's not there.
helping us through this entire thing. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you
Ms.
so
Ruchi.
much.
Thank
And
you.
the last but not the least, Miss Vilasini, our
Yes.
IT support, without whom the whole program is not possible for us. Miss Vilasini, can you
Vilasini,
please
can you
turn on
please-
your
Yeah,
video
thank you
and
so very much.
show your
We need to
beautiful
see
face
you.
to the audience?
Did you switch on the video, Ms. Vilasini?
Thank you so much, Doctor. But actually, I'm having some issues with my lens. Actually,
Never mind. Take our appreciation,
Yeah.
please.
thank
Yeah.
you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
so
Thank you
much.
so much. Without you, the telecasting of this show is really is
Yeah, not
questionable.
possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vilasini. I would like this opportunity to thank all the speakers from different parts of the world and the panelists who have really spent their time, energy, sharing their knowledge. Despite of lots of technical glitches, there are lots of connectivity issues. We all work from different parts of the world, and some people have colleges, some have universities, they have your practice, but still you have spent so much of time for us, for pouring your knowledge and enlightening us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
all. So we hope we'll be meeting
Again
maybe
soon.
keeping fingers
Definitely.
crossed.
Yes.
We'll meet up in season 2. Thank you
Don't
so much.
don't cross the finger. Don't cross the finger.
Okay. Okay.
When you cross, that means you're going to say something. It crossed already. Don't cross the finger, and please come
Okay.
back again with more
Yeah,
webinars.
sure.
See you guys.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sheila. Thank you so
Vilasini.
much.
To collaborate again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Without-